Welcome to the Victims of Child Abuse Program Performance Measures training. Today we will talk about understanding your program data, how to prepare, how to collect, how to track, and how to report on program data. Understanding and reporting useful and accurate data is a critical component in the solicitation and award process and can help both yourself and your program manager gain key insight on many decision-making factors, whether those factors be related to time, resources, or funding. OJJDP uses performance data to not only understand the agency's story, but also to demonstrate outcome-based results. In this training session, we will go over the revised performance measures, and we will discuss collecting and sharing information to help all of us better understand how well the Victims of Child Abuse program is operating on the ground. To make this session as interactive as possible, please use the WebEx chat to respond to any questions that you see on the screen. So, for example, answering the question on your screen here helps us better understand you and your needs around collecting, tracking, and/or reporting data. We will give everyone just a minute to type their responses. If you would like to add the name of your organization and your location, that would be great too. We'd like to know, and we appreciate your response. What is your biggest issue with collecting, tracking, and reporting on data in your program? Chris is posting SRCAC, documenting all limited technical assistance activities which are provided via email or a quick phone call. Pamela is posting getting our TTA participants to respond to surveys and evaluations so that we can collect the needed data. And Alicia posts using multiple systems to track the same data. Kevin posts, I am new to National Children's Alliance, so I'm just starting to learn about this. Okay, all right, let's continue then. The agenda for today includes the following program overview: performance measures, collecting and tracking data and best practices, reporting data and best practices, as well as reporting in a pandemic and what to do with personally identifiable information, also known as PII, will be presented. Lastly, we will review key documents and resources. As we progress through the training, all website links mentioned during the training will be presented to you in chat and also provided to you in your copy of the presentation to be emailed to you later this week. The objectives for today include understanding what the performance measure updates are for your program and understanding the need for a data collection plan for the data you collect between July 2021 and December 2021, reporting in January 2022. Further, you will gain understanding of the performance measure reporting due dates. Now, the due dates, as you know, are twice a year, July 30th and January 30th. And lastly, you will understand where to find supporting resources. In the showcase sessions we conducted last April, we talked about the newly updated performance measures as outlined in your solicitation or award and located at the OJJDP.ojp.gov website. This training is being presented to you to emphasize the fact that now is the time to start planning on collecting and tracking data for the July through December 2021 reporting cycle, with the goal of reporting in January 2022 on these newly revised program measures. Now, let's remind ourselves of the performance measures process and then discuss the newly updated performance measures found in the Victims of Child Abuse program. As you review these performance measures with Sarah, you may recognize some of them since not all of them were changed in the updated process. I'd like to pass the microphone to Sarah, who will introduce the program's goals and present the newly revised performance measures. Sarah?
Thank you, Rebecca. In the Special Victims and Violent Offenders Division, we have several programs and programs with subprograms. The program that we're talking about today is the VOCA program as part of the Special Victims and Violent Offenders Division. Some of the outcomes of the VOCA program are to improve the skills of multidisciplinary teams, increase positive child and family outcomes, reduce child trauma, decrease child abuse and neglect cases, increase successful investigation and prosecution of child abuse crimes, and increase the quality of protection, intervention, and treatment services. Which performance measures do grantees report on? Service delivery, training and technical assistance, program outputs, collaboration, child welfare system outcomes, victimization outcomes, protective factors, program quality, and implementation outcome measures. What is different about this program, or what standout features make it unique? This program funds the National Membership Organization and subgrants to regional children's advocacy centers, child advocacy centers, and targeted populations. And who are the grant funds intended to help? They're intended to help victims of child abuse or neglect and professionals working with them. The framework or logic model used to write the performance measures includes 4 components: inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes. Inputs are program resources such as grant funding and award administration. Activities are actions that convert inputs to outputs and can be anything from identifying key personnel with access to crime and alcohol abuse data to establishing information sharing agreements. Outputs are products or services that are the result of activities such as trainings or meetings, and outcome measures speak to the longer-term program goals. The newly updated performance measures will require changes in the way you collect data, and that's why we're here today, to ensure that you understand that you'll be reporting on the newly updated performance measures during the July through December 2021 period, come July 30th of 2022, and that you have a plan in place to do so. The performance measures document the progress that you have made in accomplishing program goals and objectives by collecting data on grantee activities and services. Remember, regular reporting on performance measure outcomes establishes your program's growth. You can find your program's performance measures at this online location shown on this slide. OJJDP identified and organized the newly updated performance measures to include 3 different categories. The categories include overall measures, multi-program measures, and program-specific measures. In overall measures, grantees will be asked the same overall questions in every program. This allows analysts to aggregate data across multiple programs and assist with responding to ad hoc data requests. Multi-program measures impact 3 types of populations. 1, shared targeted populations such as children involved in the child welfare system or tribal youth. 2, those with a similar service delivery model such as mental health services or prevention services. And 3, those with shared outcomes, which could be, an example could be youth provided with defense counsel. Program-specific measures collect data that align with a specific population, funded activity, or desired result. These measures help reflect the unique outputs and outcomes for each specific program and distinguishes them from other programs. Program-specific measures also help track the progress of individual programs over time. For the VOCA questionnaire, there are 31 performance measures. For the measure categories, we have 17 overall performance measures, 8 multi-program and 6 program-specific, and those 31 are broken down by 14 outputs and 17 outcomes. Next, let's look at the performance measures for your program. We will not be able to cover all of the measures for the program, but we will highlight the ones that are most unique to the VOCA program. First, we will begin by reviewing the TTA measures. To report on this overall TTA output measure, you will report the number of training requests received and also the number of training events held. A training request is any formal or informal inquiries for learning activities, curriculum development or delivery for a group of individuals or organizations. Training events are planned activities that are developed to help individuals apply knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed by a task, job, or organization. They can come from both train the trainer and just training of individuals. For the next TTA overall output measure, number of individuals trained, you will report the total number of individuals trained during the reporting cycle and the population trained. A text box will be provided to capture your response for population trained. Some examples of populations include staff, volunteers, and social workers. For this TTA overall output measure, percentage of technical assistance requests delivered, you will report the total number of technical assistance requests accepted and also the number of technical assistance requests delivered by type. For B, it's important to report the total number of technical assistance requests delivered and to break it down by the type of technical assistance requests. A text box will be provided to indicate the type. For this TTA overall outcome measure, you'll provide data on the total number of individuals that used the skills or knowledge learned at a training within 3 months of attending the training, which will be determined by a post-training survey. For example, when you begin collecting data for the upcoming reporting cycle, July to December 2021, you will capture post-survey data received during the reporting cycle that reflects that individuals used the knowledge or skills that they learned from a training event that occurred during the previous reporting cycle or within 3 months of attending the training. We understand that as a new grantee, or if you're reporting on this measure for the first time, you may still be developing a post-survey during the July to December 2021 reporting cycle. For the last overall TTA outcome measure, percentage of organizations who employed a new evidence-based or promising service, policy, or practice recommended by a technical assistance provider, you will provide data on the total number of organizations that received technical assistance, the number of organizations that employed a new evidence-based or promising service, policy, or practice after receiving technical assistance, and the number of organizations that employed a new service, policy, or practice after receiving technical assistance. To report this overall individuals served measure, you will report on the number of individuals served by population. This performance measure captures the total number of individuals served and is broken down by the number of children, youth, young adults, parents or legal guardians, and additional family members. Since OJJDP funding is targeted to serve children and youth, the various categories of individuals served help OJJDP isolate the true number of children and youth served. This measure also captures the number of individuals who were carried over and the number who were new admissions during the reporting cycle to avoid duplication. Percentage of eligible individuals served by victim services is an example of a multi-program service delivery output measure. You will simply provide a total count of the number of individuals served who received victim services. Examples of victim services include any efforts to assist victims, to promote their safety, security, or recovery, to help them participate in the justice system, or to meet other victims' needs. Number of child abuse and/or neglect cases investigated is a program-specific program output measure. You will provide a simple count of the number of child abuse and/or neglected cases investigated. Child abuse and/or neglect cases include all types of abuse and neglect against a child under the age of 18 by a parent, caregiver, or another person in a custodial role such as a religious leader, a coach, or a teacher, that results in harm, potential for harm, or threat of harm to a child. Number of child abuse and/or neglect cases prosecuted is also a program-specific program output measure. For this measure, you will provide a simple count of the number of child abuse and/or neglect cases prosecuted during the reporting cycle. Number of forensic examinations conducted is a program-specific program output measure. You will report the number of forensic examinations conducted. A forensic examination applies physics, chemistry, biology, computer science, and engineering to identify, analyze, and interpret criminal evidence. A completed forensic exam is when a forensic lab completes all tests and analysis on presented evidence, and the evidence is ready for use by investigators in support of a case. For number of children's advocacy centers is a program-specific system improvement measure. And for this measure, you will provide the number of children's advocacy centers by category: accredited, new accredited, operational, satellite, or new satellite. Number of operational state chapters is a program-specific system improvement measure. You will provide the number of operational state chapters during the reporting cycle. An operational state chapter provides resources to CACs working towards National Children's Advocacy accreditation, delivers or refers CACs to relevant training and technical assistance, guides CACs through the accreditation process, and distributes information on the national standards. The last measure we will discuss today is the percentage of new programs implemented, or the number of new programs that implemented the Children's Advocacy Center model, which is a program-specific implementation outcome. For this measure, for A, you will report the number of new programs that implemented the CAC model using OJJDP grant funding. For B, you'll provide the number of existing programs that implemented the CAC model using OJJDP funding, and for C, the number of existing programs that implemented an enhancement or expansion to the CAC model using OJJDP funding. And now I will pass it back to Rebecca.
Thank you, Sarah. We have a short scenario for you to think about as we digest the performance measures that we just saw. We have Brenda Sokup. She's a new Victims of Child Abuse awardee, and she's just received these newly updated performance measures. She's attended this learning event, and she's sitting at her desk wondering how to get started. What would you recommend Ms. Sokup do to prepare for data collection in the July to December 2021 reporting period? Please respond in chat. Alicia is posting, I would ask for a full list of measures so I can compare to existing measures. Okay. And we do understand that each program has a unique or slightly different approach to data collection and reporting, and so determining what works best for your program is always a best practice. We're going to review several best practices while collecting and tracking data. And the first is a data collection plan. Creating a data collection plan requires a good deal of pre-planning and preparation. When creating a data collection plan, best practices often include locating the performance measures for your program, as we've already noted, understanding what each question is asking, again, as we have already noted, even if the response ends up being a 0, and creating a plan to identify when and how you will collect that data. For example, what type of tool or instrument will you use to collect any needed data? Has that tool or instrument been validated or used before? Have you used it before? And how accurate is this tool or instrument? And who will be collecting the data? Those would all go into a data collection plan. And there are several best practices you can implement when collecting data for the upcoming reporting cycle. Of course, you want to be proactive in your approach. You want to designate staff for the coordination of the performance measure data collection process. You want to review the progress reporting questionnaire before entering data. You want to ensure that designated staff participate in trainings. You want to pay attention to communication from Just Grants. And lastly, if applicable, you want to review, edit, and validate data with subgrantees before reporting. Some things to think about as you plan to collect and track data include timelines and resources. After all, this can be a lengthy data collection period, as noted in your solicitation. Some of the questions you may want to consider while planning include duration of data collection and document version control. Does your plan include a beginning, a middle, and an ending date? How will you manage documents over that time period? For example, will you track them using an Excel spreadsheet? Regarding location and access, how long will you store the data? Who will have access to it? And if the data is stored on a shared drive, who is given permissions and by whom? Lastly, how many changes will be communicated, and how will data be validated and edited if applicable? We will now review several best practices during reporting. In the January 2022 reporting cycle, you will be reporting on the newly revised performance measures and narrative questions. Narrative questions provide you with the opportunity to answer or address the following topics. What do the numbers you reported on in your performance measures actually mean on the ground? How does your work impact your community? You want to use the narrative to walk the reader from the numeric output to the tangible outcome. And you want to use specific and detailed concrete examples to illustrate your point. Other things to think about including in your narrative could be providing evidence to support conclusions, answering the question, what has funding allowed you to do that you could not do prior to receiving funding? And could include words like COVID-19 and pandemic when explaining COVID-19 adjustments to the program. Take just a moment and examine the community-based violence program narrative example on the screen. This comes from the ROCA program in Baltimore, who writes, "These young people that are in these environments have been placed in situations out of their control at a very young age, but they do have the ability to learn the skills to not react," said Kurt Palmero, the director of ROCA Baltimore. "We were able to reduce violence in our community by 17% by offering evidence-based schools programs, 19 trauma-informed services over the last 3 months. Next, let's discuss best practices for reporting in Just Grants. Common issues arise because you are required to respond to every question. When reporting zeros, if a measure does not apply, you can enter a 0 value and then add an explanation by selecting the comments field. A brief description, such as "we are still in our planning period," or "there was no activity during the reporting cycle," are acceptable responses in Just Grants. Avoiding duplication and count can also be very challenging. Having more than one person review the data, for example, a program manager at a site visit, can help ensure duplicate data does not exist in your reporting. And, as you know, reporting is awards-based. Another best practice when trying not to duplicate data is to spend down funds and create a final report of activities you performed for the oldest award first before beginning to enter data and reporting on another award. If this is not possible, prorate your quantitative data according to the amount of each award for those of you with multiple awards. You want to contact Just Grants with any concerns related to any error messages found in Just Grants. You can save your data and resume data entry at a later point in time in Just Grants. And for more information like this, you can visit the video link posted on the screen and post it in chat. Also, you may want to contact the PMT Help Desk for any questions related to progress reporting or reporting on the newly updated performance measures. You are encouraged to reach out to your program manager with questions or concerns. As previously mentioned, some grantees may receive funding from other awards. A service should be reported under one program or the other. The same service cannot be reported under multiple programs. If you have difficulty tracking services for each specific award, work with OJJDP program managers to identify an appropriate method for prorating all services to allocate numbers to each award. This session only focuses on January 2022 reporting. For this July of 2021, all discretionary awards will start collecting data on the updated performance measures. You will be reporting on the activities that occurred between July and December 2021 in January of 2022. Discretionary awards reporting deadlines are July 30th for the reporting period January 1st through June 30th, and January 30th for the reporting period July 1st through December 31st. Collecting and tracking data that contains personally identifiable information, or PII, should be done with consideration towards the Privacy Act of 1974. Broadly stated, the purpose of the Privacy Act and other acts or other issues guidance for, like NIST, SP 800-122, but the purpose of these is to balance the government's need to maintain information about individuals with the rights of the individual to be protected against unwarranted invasions of their privacy. In accordance with this, you want to collect only the data you need. If you are using printed materials, you want to keep PII in locked desk drawers, file cabinets, or similar locked enclosures. And when using sensitive PII, you want to keep it in an area where access is controlled and limited to persons with an official need to know. Reporting in a pandemic. You should complete progress reporting to the best of your ability and submit it before the deadline. Every progress report form includes a narrative field or multiple narrative fields where you can provide additional information about the data. Use that space to explain any incomplete or missing data. You're encouraged to use the narrative field that asks for additional information about the effectiveness to describe COVID-19 related adjustments to programming and other activities not captured elsewhere on the form. If you cannot provide accurate count for numerical progress report fields because, for example, project partners do not have access to files, you should leave those fields blank rather than providing estimates. As a best practice, you want to communicate setbacks and successes through the use of progress reports as well as with your program specialist. So, how do you report on the activities now that they've been shifted to online remote platforms and when you have not been collecting detailed data on victims served like you did in face-to-face sessions? The short answer is to do the best you can and make very good use of those narrative fields. I'd like to pass the microphone to Muniba, who will discuss various resources at your disposal and where to go for assistance. Muniba?
Thank you, Rebecca. Now we will briefly go over resources and where you can find additional assistance. The PMT Help Desk is available to help you with any questions you may have about responding to the progress reporting questions or performance measures. You can contact us by calling the number on the screen or emailing OJJDP PMT at ojp.usdoj.gov. For a faster response, we encourage grant award administrators to send the Help Desk an email. The OJJDP PMT Help Desk contact information is available on the screen. Our office hours are Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, except for U.S. federal holidays. The PMT Help Desk returns emails and phone calls within 24 hours, so please don't hesitate to leave a voicemail or email even after business hours. Just grant support. If you have questions about the Just Grant system, for example, accessing the system, please call the number on the screen between 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and Saturday, Sunday, and federal holidays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you experience any issues with Just Grants, we strongly encourage Grant Award administrators to contact Just Grants support. Just Grants information, such as instructions on locating, completing, and submitting performance reports and Just Grants, can be found on the OJJDP.ojp.gov website or by viewing the video available on the screen. You can also log into Just Grants at justgrants.usdoj.gov. Thanks. Back to you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Muniba. Let's take a moment and reflect on what was presented. First, we discussed each of the VOCA performance measures, noting the specific instances where data would need to be collected and the type of data needed. Next, we learned about best practices for planning, collecting, tracking, and reporting on data for the July through December 2021 reporting cycle. So, what's next? Next steps include the opportunity we all currently have to collect data that will inform change down the road. For our part, those changes come in the form of edited performance measures. You will be receiving a fillable feedback form that you are requested to complete and return to the PMT Help Desk once you have familiarized yourself with the newly updated performance measures. There is one form per performance measure with plenty of room for narrative. Providing us with feedback on the newly revised performance measures gives us the information we need to fully understand your needs or those challenges that you may face implementing that measure. Thus, collecting your feedback now on the newly revised performance measures informs the refresh cycle 1 year after the pilot has occurred and we have identified those changes or updates that need to occur. For now, no planned changes to the performance measures are being considered, and we would request that you do not make any changes to any of the documents posted online or provided in training sessions. And that concludes today's session.